Yep, this is where I'm going to regret this. Let's get to work and let's see what round 2 of this blaster can come together to be. Here's the carnage. I melted the cable. Those bearings sound horrible. I hate wrecking things. Where did this one come off? It's just nasty down in there. Nasty. All right, guys, it's been a minute. We're coming back around to the blaster, which last video update on the blaster was 6 months ago, June, July or so. At which point we had it up and riding, everything from the crates put back together, no mods, cheap parts, just riding it. And I've been riding it. Now we are in the beginning of February, and the winter, as you can see, not a whole lot of snow, which means it's easy to ride. So been cranking around on it. Really, been through the heat cycles in the motor, broken it in, and now as we come around, hopefully some warmer weather coming, it's time to start breaking this down and putting in all of the cool goodies that we have. So I ended up putting the paddle tires on the other blaster because I love riding that one around, and swapped on so I could ride here. But with this snow, I could ride with anything. However, I did end up locking up the bottom end. And for those of you who are blaster building gurus, it wasn't the China cylinder. I mean, who knows if that was going to go, but that wasn't it. It was actually a little more silly than that. So here's the carnage. Yeah, so on the stator, we have the darker copper one. That's the lighting coil. Great. And this is the ignition coil. So I was out riding, stalled out, and ultimately this coil, the power coil here, these screws rattled out. That's what did it. And this is not something I checked. I didn't disassemble or touch, but I don't know if this has been a part in the past, but it rattled out. So when this rattled out, it actually wedged between the stator and the flywheel and locked up the rear end. Fortunately, when it did that, the bike had stalled out, so I wasn't able to kickstart it. So we have no additional damage in there other than the stator. Because of the wear that's on here, we're not going to reuse these. And another decision to make is the plate. While I'm in here, I'll either end up drilling this plate to be able to advance, anywhere between 1 and 5 degrees, or I'll get a different plate that has the actual marks on it to make life a little easier, a little more precise. But everything else looks good in here. We have probably, I'm going to say probably not more than 10 hours on this unit right now. You see the piston broke in quite well. This was the Wiseco. Happy with that. This is the +3 crank cylinder head. Let's go ahead and have a look at this. Not the head, but let's look at the jug. Here's the China jug. We know it's a China. It's not stamped here. Just a circle, no Y1, Y2. 10 hours running on it. Not bad, but you know, I noticed something. Hard to make out in the camera. Feels perfectly smooth, but I do have a vertical striation there. Now, oh boy, I really do want to show you this. It's hard to see, but the top of the transfer here, that is rough. Rough. So there was no port or polish on here. And you can see again, looking in these transfers. These transfers, they're smooth to the touch, but they're not cleaned up. And you see there's all this build up here. This could definitely be chamfered on down, especially through here. A lot of material could be taken out. The exhaust is real rough, just casting imperfections. So nothing wrong with the motor other than the stator, and you could certainly you could argue nothing wrong with the motor except that it is a low quality cylinder in there. So we're gonna take care of that. The original plan was always to get this one up and running, just as it is, for the lowest cost that we get it back on the trails. And if I were just swapping out the stator, it's been through heat cycles, retorqued everything down, you know, it'll go unless, you know, something happens with some of these knockoff parts. But we've got boxes and boxes of cool stuff to put on here. Buried in there, I have been accumulating ASR, long travel, A-arms, shocks, axles, bead locks, motor parts, gusset kit. So enough talking. What's gonna happen next? We're gonna tear this whole thing down, right down to the frame. Taking it all apart, everything's coming off right down to the frame, get the frame cleaned up, and I have the gusset kit from HPM Power Sports, so we can reinforce the frame and all the various key places. Weld that in so that we don't break the frame. Once we have this stripped down, we have the welding done, then this is going off to a powder coat. And I think I have a color scheme in mind for the end, but I'm gonna hold out yet in case I kind of change my mind. But for now, for the tear down, I'm gonna do most of that off camera. You've seen me tear down before, get everything into baggies, labeled boxes, tool boxes, get it all pulled apart. So that'll probably take something this small, a couple hours anyway, depending on bolts that are locked out. But let's get to work and let's see what round 2 of this blaster can come together to be. Alright, this is only 15 minutes in, but having been through before and cleaned out all the threads and bolts, it's going quite quick. But I did want to slow down. I have not taken apart anything in the front end, so these look pretty good, look like they'll come out. But I wanted to capture the layout of all the wiring for when things go back together. So, for posterity, capturing some of these, and some of these are unplugged because of tour deletes, things like that. And I don't know, I might do a different harness in here, but time will tell on that one. So, screwed in, we have a ground, and this guy up here is the Tour's brain. That's going to go away. This little unit down here, this looks like this is going to be the CDI, but I'm going to check these, and this looks like it's a regulator with the ground. But just wanted to capture how everything goes. So really all of this harness just comes to the front, and everything comes to the front. All of these colors are still matched up. I've got low beam, high beam, ground. This is key. Key is actually still plugged in on here. And to delete that, I could just join the two of these and boom, no key. So see a lot of that later on down the build. And then this harness, super simple harness, runs down the inside of the frame to here. We have that under the Tours, going to the stator, and Bolted in here is our ignition coil. And then it runs back. Ooh, what was all back here? There's multiples. I was gonna say headlight, brake light, but this green black. I'll have to check the manual and post what some of these are here. But okay, there's how the wire harness runs. Clipped into these tabs. Couple of tabs. So let's start getting the electronics off. Noticing here as I take off the coil, an ear is broken off the frame for mounting this. You know, not a big deal because I can ground the other side, but we're gonna see if we can get that welded and straightened up as well. There's the whole blaster harness. Not too bad. Did break a tab off this plug here. There's a lot of mess in here, things that aren't being used anymore, so this is ripe for really being cleaned up, slimmed down. I do want to maintain the ability to put lights on here though, so I got to think about what I'm going to do with this. Here's another one I'm going to have to research. This is on the OEM light. You can see this bulb was smashed out. It's a red indicator light. I don't actually know if this is a neutral light, an oil temp light, but I don't see any sensors. So I'll have to post on the bottom of the screen what this guy actually is. I don't know. We'll be swapping out these cable pull brakes for a hydraulic kit, but not from another blaster, not from an 0306, but from another Yamaha. And tough to see, but down in here is an E-clip. Okay, got to get that fella out. And then we can pull that off. And then back up here. That is nasty. No wonder these brakes are always giving people trouble. I have to give some thought to this. There's a lot of extra on here, like this parking brake setup, which is also on your clutch lever, which we're not going to use. So this needs some thought. Carburetor. OEM Mikuni. Stamp back there, not a Chinese knockoff, made in Japan, with the Tours Delete on it. We're going to run this one again. Although, you notice, I melted the cable. Pulls fine. It's coming. You know, I'd never noticed this mount here before that holds on the plastic that houses the key. Those thread patterns there for this guy, I'd never noticed that. Learning a little bit. Here's my exhaust hanger. We'll take that off. We'll get our steering column off here. We're getting close. There's our steering column. Rubber bushings. I think they're broken. I don't think they come cut like that. So we'll set this off to the side as well. All right, we're getting a good deal closer here. The frame is just about torn down, but I did run into a bit of a challenge here. The upper A-arms, this one's really stuck in there. I have tried, taking out the Zerk fitting and put PB Blaster in there. It's been soaking, and trying to tap this out. Spins easy, but won't move. And I got a little impatient and tapped it a little hard with a hammer, and I bent up a thread there, which I can run a chase over and clean that out. What I should be doing, I should be threading the nut back on there and then whacking it to protect the threads to break it free. I just got a little impatient. On the other side, I fought it for a half hour and finally gave it a cut, which is unfortunate. I hate wrecking things. So inside you have these, they're still stuck in there. You have these kind of bushings towards the end and this metal sleeve. And having cut this, the metal sleeve is moving. My best guess on what's happening is the bolt, here's the bolt there, all rusted up, seizing on that metal sleeve and just not getting enough movement. So I'm going to have to do the same thing to this other upper A-arm. And what I ended up doing, because I really couldn't fit a Sawzall blade down in here, I got my cutting wheel and I gave it a good cut halfway through, and then I dropped my Sawzall in there and finished the cut. And once I was able to break through there, everything was jarred up enough that it came out. So the unfortunate thing is doing this, I will have to buy these bolts, these two bolts as a replacement. So there's a cost to that to put the new A-arms on, because what I have doesn't come with that mounting hardware. So let's get that done. And here you can see part of the challenge. I still can't get this bolt out of the sleeve. And when you put the PB Blaster in through the Zerk fitting, it's just on the outside, the sleeve, between the sleeve and the external part. When you put the PB Blaster on, it's staying between the outside of the sleeve and the external tubing on the swing arm. It doesn't get down inside. You can try and soak from the ends. Oh, so almost. Okay, so with that, the frame is done. So we're going to put this off to the side because I need to disassemble the swing arm. And I am wondering if I made a mistake here, because if that axle is really buggered up in there, that would have been a whole lot easier to try and get off mounted back on the quad earlier on. So this could go easy or this could not, but that's next. Keeping all my hardware together here for the future. Where did this one come off of? Steering stem maybe? There we go. Castle nut there. This helps me keep everything organized until I'm ready to really do the final breakdown and clean up. like this swing arm skid. That's pretty heavy duty. We'll clean that up. We'll end up polishing that and reusing it. Yep, this is where I'm going to regret this. All right, so I made a pretty good tactical mistake here, and one that I really should have known better. I really should have worked to get that that axle out while the swing arm was on the quad. Just more leverage, I can set it on the ground. Tires have traction versus everything trying to spin. So hit it with a good amount of PB blaster around these anti-fade nuts here, and working on it. I'm gonna let this soak for a few hours and come back because I have to get these off because the axle wants to feed out that way. And then even once these are off, there's no guarantee this is going to come out easy. That could be all bound up in there as well. So that's the last disassembly hurdle. All right, I got it. I ended up having to put the hubs and the wheels back on to get enough leverage to undo those jam nuts. What I did, I had to sit on that tire. I had to sit on the tire, take my splitting maul, and then just start whacking at it until it started to go. Now, we're making progress. So we'll get these off, and then we're going to find out if this axle comes out nice or not. All right, that was a pain. So to work on getting this apart, I've got PB Blaster down in here, but I'm going to go ahead and yank the seals from either side. They're shot. This is all the bearings and seals are going to be replaced in here, so we just want to get this axle out of the carrier because we actually have a different axle going in, a wider axle, and I want to get this thing cleaned up and off to powder coat. We'll replace those, obviously. It's just nasty down in there. Those bearings sound horrible. So that's gonna have to sit for a good while. Oh boy. I'm not entirely sure how I'm gonna get this axle out of this carrier. I don't want to buy another carrier. Now in here there are bearings as well. There's a needle bearing. A little tough to see. Let's see if I can get this see if I can get these needle bearings out. So there are seals right in the edge here. And put on my peeper protectors. Tell you, it's not immediately obvious how I'm going to get those bearings out. All right, guys. Well, that's where I'm gonna have to park this teardown for a while. Overall, that was about, well, moved fast for about 2 hours, and the swing arm slowed me down. I don't think the swing arms ever had any kind of maintenance on it, judging by the condition of the bearings. You didn't feel the slop, but once you got things off and got the weight off, just a lot of grinding in there. And the A-arms, same thing, stock A-arms. I mean, other than hitting the Zerk fittings, you know, with some grease, you know, I had to cut them out. So we're gonna park it there, and I'm gonna have to come up with a new plan to get the bearings out of the swing arm. I'm not able to get these bearings out, and honestly, these seals are like fused to the swing arm. They're not popping out. They're like melted to the aluminum. It's a little bit of work, and then there's kind of copper spacers in there that also need to come out. So I gotta try something different. I tried using my blind bearing puller, nothing. So this is probably a job for some kind of a press tool. So we're gonna see what I can come up with there. I think Tusk might make a kit for pulling swing arm bearings. I might look into that. And this, I'm gonna keep kind of filling the reservoir here with PB Blaster, letting this sit for a couple of days. And I wanna make sure I'm banging it out from the right side. Let's see, because this is the brake caliper side. I believe I have to bang it out from the bottom up here. But this could be a real pain, but I want to salvage this carrier because I am going to be running a hydraulic rear hydraulic brake kit from CTI, which would bolt right on here, because I don't want to go hunting another old carrier if I don't have to. Ready to go in? You look like you're getting cold. Come on.